Hello everyone and welcome back to Southern Wealth. I hope you guys are doing very well. If you do enjoy the content, please consider dropping that like and subscribe. So, happy Easter for everyone who celebrates it. I don't know about you guys here, it's holidays on Monday, but not on Friday. So to me it was a normal working week, but I know that for a lot of people it's different. So I wish you very good time with your families and that you do enjoy some nice rest from all this craziness that we've been seeing. So today I'd like to speak a little bit about three different things: the political area, the markets area, and then crypto in specific. So let's go with the political stuff first. There's been a big issue at the moment, which is with Powell and Trump's intent of firing him. Now, I do understand why that intent, but I don't like it. You guys all know if I was an American, who I would have voted for, so you guys all know that. But that doesn't mean that I'm a blind follower. I am opposed to the president controlling, between brackets, the central bank, because one year you can get a Gavin Newsom or a Bernie Sanders or an Ocasio-Cortez, and you really don't want those people with the power of the money printing, because you're going to start seeing free this, free that, free the other, and most people, unfortunately, don't understand that concept. So, for example, if you're listening to this and somebody says we have free healthcare and you are a doctor or a nurse, you think, really? Because I don't work for free. Somebody pays for me. What about the equipment at the hospital? Was it free? What about the building, the utilities, the cleaning? Is it free? I don't think so. Somebody's paying. What about teachers? Do they work for free? What about the buildings, the schools? Are they built for free? Do they get warm for free? You see the problem, right? You know it's not really free, but many people are purposely not taught at school where money for these things comes from, so politicians can keep on doing it. So that's on that side that I don't like. Now, to me, Powell was doing a fairly decent job in terms of managing the markets throughout the period of rate hikes. Now, I believe that's a mistake because I think rate hikes exacerbate the problem with inflation, as you guys know, because rates are nothing but the cost of money. So if you raise that cost, you're basically raising the cost for every person on the economy. But I understand that that's the prevalent opinion, so I don't take it to heart. My big issue with Powell is just this one. When he cut rates in September and October of 2024, 50 and then 25 basis points, with much worse data to justify cutting than what he has today. So if he doesn't cut in September and October, I have zero problem with him not cutting now. But if he cuts in September and October, he needs to be cutting now. Otherwise, his past decisions in September and October were nothing but political, which means you're not independent, which means you're lying, which means you can get fired. But I don't like that the president can fire you, because that opens a precedent for one day someone much worse to be able to fire Federal Reserve chairmen. You see, you need to think a little bit ahead of time. These people are not going to win elections forever. At some point somebody else is going to win, and then you can leverage the precedent you created and really damage the country. So be careful what you wish for. That's number one. Number two, around the trade deals. I think those will happen. Japan just announced this week they are negotiating a new trade deal with the US. I think the market wants to see some clarity in the trade deals, but I think they're starting to price in the trade deals coming. European Union, I think they're also going to sign it. And I think India. I think a lot of people is not paying attention to India. I think this is a golden opportunity if I was India, I would be the first country trying to negotiate, and I would be very lenient to have a major deal with the US. India is trying to overtake China. So the fastest they negotiate, the better position they get. But India has a big advantage. India is a democracy. So India can tolerate bad years. China cannot, because there's a deal in China between the government and the people, which is you have no freedom, but you have prosperity. As soon as one side drops, the other side becomes impossible to maintain after a while, particularly when your population is 1.4 billion people. So if I was India, I wouldn't be surprised that one of the first deals, I'm not going to say it's going to be the first deal, but one of the first major deals will be India. That's really my feeling. And Vietnam will also need to do it, because Vietnam has basically, if they cannot export to the West, their economy collapses in like, a month or 2 months. So basically they will need it. So they will, I'm pretty sure they will sign one as well. South Korea will be in the US next week. I think you're going to start to see trade deals faster than people think. And then you're going to have the tax bill. And then you're going to have the deregulation, the massive deregulation. Now, why is this so important? Because it really aggravates me when people, the economists and the financial experts out there that spend all day long promoting nothing but fear, have such decisive, conclusive, 100% sure assessments of something that is not seen in this planet, in the modern world, for a long time. They don't even know, they don't even have all the data. How long will this last? How easy it is to survive a couple of months without some of these items? How easy it is to replace with other countries with lower tariffs? What about the fact that all the commodities are dropping in price? What about if the corporate tax rate goes from 21% to 15%? Now they can absorb a bigger hit on the tariffs. If the deregulation leads to 4 or 5% of cost savings for companies, now the tariffs don't look so bad. You see the point? There are so many variants. How can you be so sure? How can you be so, so adamant in your positions? You can't. The same way that people who are in favor of the tariffs cannot be so adamant of its success. It's impossible. You don't know. First, you have to see the trade deals. If the deals are indeed improve substantially U.S. situation in global trade, then it's a massive success. And it doesn't matter if you like him or you don't like him. He will go down in history, most likely, as a top 3 president of all time for the country. Oh, but it's not nice for the Europeans. He's not the European president. Oh, but it's not nice for the Japanese. Yeah, he's not the Japanese president. He's the American president. He cares about the US. That's it. You don't like it? That's your problem. He's not here to help the world. He's here to first help Americans. Once America is up and running, then he will help the rest of people that share his values and the Western societies, etc. Otherwise, he won't, and that's why he was voted for. So that's on the front of the tariffs and the taxes and the deregulation. We have to wait and see. It's impossible to have 100% guaranteed positions on any of these if you haven't seen the data. That's like saying, oh, that guy has 4 aces. He's playing poker. He has 4 aces. He won for sure. But how can you say that if you haven't seen the ends of the other players? What if someone has a straight flush? What if someone has a royal flush? How can you say, oh yeah, it's guaranteed that full house is going to win the hand? Really? How'd you know? Have you seen all the other players' hands? I don't think so. Oh yeah, no. Oh, that team is going to win the match because he's winning 10-0 at halftime. And so basically a touchdown and a field goal. Right? Yeah, so that team has won, right? Because it's the end of the second quarter and he's still ahead, so he's going to win. Really? Is the game over? You see the point. And I do think China will be more complex, but they will come to a deal. Check their PPI data. PPI is the inflation for producers. It was down 2.5% for the month of March and has been declining for 29 straight months. That means overcapacity and basically people producing stuff for nobody. That's what it means. So what happens if they lose by far their number 1 client? All this problem exacerbates. But with China, there's a lot more at stake. You have minerals, you have the Panama Canal ports, you have kind of geopolitical intervention in Latin America. So it's a little bit more tricky. Now, one thing that I've been looking at, and I see very few people talking about it, is Iran. which I really hope that negotiations come to a positive end, because according to all the reports, if this was just for Israel, these guys would have been, the letter B, the word starting by B, I can't say it, otherwise YouTube's gonna screw me here, but you get the point. They'd be up in flames by now. So there's really someone trying to avoid this. Now today, the US and Ukraine signed the memorandum of intent to sign the minerals deal between the US and Ukraine, which obviously is a good step forward. But I do believe the US is losing patience. I've said this many times before. The focus of the US is not against Russia anymore. This is not the Cold War. Those days are over. They have no strategic disalignments. This is really something like to stop that, kind of stabilize supply chains better, remove even more inflationary pressures. It's more about that rather than really a strategic, cause against the old Soviet Union. That doesn't exist. And to be honest, if that conflict prolongs, it affects Europe more than it affects the US, which means Europe gets in a weaker position to negotiate a trade deal with the US. So be careful with the goodwill that one country can exert in the region to try to solve some of these items. Okay, so these are very complex things. So I hope this was the first step. I hope next week to sign the final deal. I think there's also something on the news about Russia getting softer sanctions. It's like in a good path towards final peace. I'm all in favor of peace, particularly of young men stop dying in those regions. So that's what I'm for. Now, the markets, they've been pretty much sideways trading. We had a day in which the day that Powell spoke was really a down day. But apart from that, if you look at developments over the week, even the Russell was green. My God, can you believe that? The Russell green is like Ethereum green. It's like a miracle. So it seems to me that the markets are starting to digest better a lot of this volatility. And what I think the markets need is they want to see a big first draft of a trade deal with a big country, so they can start pricing in what's going to happen with other countries and how the trade deals will more or less look like, what's going to be the timelines. This is actually going to go forward. Maybe a couple of countries are going to need a few extra months. Other countries are going to be a bit easier. So the market still needs to see something a bit more tangible to really start pumping, in my view, from the stock side. Now, gold has been ripping higher, and Peter Schiff has been using this as ways to sell things to his followers. Now, I saw someone writing comments on his posts, and I had to run this with Grok and with ChatGPT just to be on the safe side. So the person was writing, I don't remember the name, he was writing, I think it was a he, that Peter Schiff, and this is true, by the way, of gold bugs. I've talked about this before. Gold bugs are obsessed with one thing. What is it? Inflation. They love inflation. They get physically aroused by the word inflation. And then they say, correctly so, by the way, that inflation is not just the CPI. You also have the money supply increase, which pushes asset price inflation. So when you go and you try to buy a house, the house is now suddenly 40% more expensive over 3 years. Nothing has really happened to actually, the house is a little bit more deteriorated than it was before, but all of a sudden it's up 40%. Why? Because the money supply exploded. So they are correct in looking at inflation. You have to look at the asset price inflation that comes from money supply increase, and the CPI, which when you go to groceries, McDonald's, etc. And they talk about everything inflation adjusted except the price of gold. Why? Because in order for gold to break even from the 2011 top, break even, not make money, break even, adjusted for money supply increase and CPI, gold needs to go to $6,000 or very close to like 5,908, whatever, just to break even. Not to make money, to break even. And gold needs to go to $45,500 $500 to break even from the 1980s top. Silver I'm not going to discuss because it's actually down in nominal terms, not even if adjusted for inflation, just outright versus the dollar. And that's the reason, the pernicious, the dishonesty of the gold bugs, which is they know this, but they talk about everything, inflation, this, but they never talk about the price of gold adjusted for inflation. And the reason is, you guessed it, it's much harder to sell you gold if they do. Very simple. Now, when it comes to crypto, a lot of fundamentals have been in place, have been improving. You have now 12 sovereign wealth funds and governments going to CZ and Binance how to establish their own reserves. More companies are starting to buy Bitcoin, putting on balance sheet. There's even a company buying Solana. You have now supermarkets in Switzerland that accept Bitcoin payments. So you start to see really, and basically global money, M2 has been exploding. And we know that there's always a lag between the global M2 and the price of Bitcoin and then the price of crypto in general. So that is something that, I think one thing that I really like to see was the S&P and the NASDAQ really getting destroyed, and Bitcoin actually, I think, was up on the day. Now, this is very rare. Usually, it's a complete destruction. So basically, if NASDAQ is down 4, Bitcoin is down 10. So the fact that we're starting to see crypto becoming green while stocks are red is actually quite encouraging. And usually, crypto kind of leads stocks. So I think what we need, we're in this boring phase of consolidation. I think we need to break above 92K on Bitcoin, and then we're up for the races. So we are just waiting for that. Will that happen next week? Will that happen first week of May? Who knows? But basically, I believe we are very, very close to it. Oh, then finally on the tariffs. Just a final point on the tariffs. I saw someone comment in a podcast of why. Okay, the other countries have tariffs and controls against the US, but the US doesn't have the other way. Why not? And they will say, oh yeah, it's because, after World War II, we're very wealthy and we wanted to be benevolent and we want to get people out of poverty and spread the good word of democracy, capitalism, all of this. Now, I have no doubt in believing that at some point the US was making so much money and said, they're ripping us for 2 or 3%. Who cares, right? Let's go along with it. I think the main two reasons are actually the fact that the US is the reserve currency, so it's just much easier to print the money or to issue debt to cover the deficits. It's just F it, let's not waste the time, just issue debt, right? And for the companies themselves, the American companies, when they start closing their facilities in the US and opening them in China, Vietnam, Mexico, they save a lot of money. So their profits go up a lot, which means senior management gets very nice bonuses and their stocks appreciate quite a bit. What do CEOs and senior management of massive companies do? They give a lot of money to politicians to make sure they keep on running the gravy train. And that's why you saw Nancy Pelosi, Obama, Bernie Sanders in the past talking about tariffs. If you would close your eyes, they even sounded like Trump, but they've not done nothing, because I have zero doubt that they may have suggested it and their donors said, shut the F up. We're going to keep it that way because I got a bonus of $30 million this year. Oh, I closed the plant in Michigan? Pfft, I don't care. I opened 2 in Vietnam for half the price. Who cares? It's not my problem. And by the way, I give you a lot of money to your campaigns to make sure that this gravy train goes along, huh? So is this factual? Can I prove any of this? No, it's just my opinion. That's my feeling. But in any case, again, we are actually living history today. All of these things can have profound transformative effects for the future. And cherish these moments and that you're living in these moments, because you're going to be reading about them in 20 years' time. And most likely the historians will have it completely wrong. But you're going to be here and you are witnesses to what's really happening. And with that, happy Easter, everyone. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.